Good evening, everybody. It's Kate from the Safeguarding Association, coming to you live from my very, very hot makeshift studio for this evening. I'm running a live webinar on the Children and Social Work Act tonight for members of the Safeguarding Association. So I've just made sure all of my equipment is working up here in, as I say, a very, very, very hot and clammy studio. I have had a fairly busy day today, and I think I look a little rough around the edges. I will fix that, members, don't worry. I won't look quite this rough in about half an hour's time. I am pleased to report that Sam is doing so far is doing much better than he was yesterday. Thank you so much for your kind words about my darling little puppy who's managed to eat something in the garden and make himself very, very ill. I've been in court today as well on a discharge of care order application by a mother, and they're always interesting applications to deal with. There is a set criteria that you have to follow, and one of the big things, the legal test, is around what change in circumstances have been made in order to satisfy the court that the local authority no longer needs to share parental responsibility for the child or children in question. And in this particular circumstance, it's an interesting situation because it was a placement that was right for the children in terms of their connections, but was fairly fluid for parents, or certainly for mum. And unfortunately for mum, in the proceedings, the independent social work assessment and the guardian were utterly, utterly against her. And really what is transpiring is, understandably, mum doesn't really want to have the same independent social worker doing the assessment. But the question is, should there be anybody else? And it's almost as if the court is being, in fact, the court is being asked for permission for mum to have a third bite at the cherry in terms of her change or otherwise, in terms of her ability to provide care for the children. And it's one of those things that happens in a lot of cases, and it's really difficult for parents, and I totally understand that, where they feel that they can give a better level of care. They perhaps don't accept the findings that were made by the court in the initial proceedings. They perhaps don't accept that they have not made sufficient change and want to be providing care for the children, but the test is such that they have to demonstrate there has been sufficient change in order for the local authority to not share parental responsibility. Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say so. So yeah, I suppose it's one of those areas that, as professionals, this should just be natural to us, but it's not. And even where you are a very seasoned expert, or you are a very seasoned social worker or lawyer within the proceedings, for each of these applications that we put before the court, there is a legal test to be satisfied. And you might be providing a part of that test for a particular party. And preferably, if we are looking at either a continuation of proceedings or a further application in a different set of proceedings, but the issues are the same, my preference is always to try and use the same experts where possible, because it allows continuity and it makes sure that those who've assessed previously, if they are still working, are able to look back on their notes, read their report again, and to consider whether or not, in their opinion, anything has sufficiently changed as per their previous recommendations or your previous recommendations. So I'm all for parents making changes to allow them to care for their children wherever possible. We always strive for children to remain within the family. That is rule up there, paramount considerations, making sure that families can stay together. But like I say, there is a legal test to apply. It applies for local authorities as well as it does for parents. So just be aware. And I'd like to know your experiences. Have you worked with parents where they didn't like the outcome of a particular assessment or a particular report? Maybe it was yours, maybe it was somebody else's, and they started to try to shop. Maybe a particular party didn't like the outcome of an assessment, and I've worked for local authorities where social workers did not like the outcome of an assessment and wanted somebody else to do it, and it doesn't work like that. So let me know in the comments below, what's your experience of this? Have you had cases where it's common practice for particular parents or particular carers or professionals to try and find somebody that says what they want them to say? Or are you finding that there's very good and robust practices going on where you are to make sure that that doesn't happen? And maybe you're the professional who's been the third or fourth expert in the case because of slight changes that have happened over the course of the proceedings. Let me know in the comments below. Share your experiences. And until tomorrow, I'm going to try and make myself slightly more human. Try and cool down a little bit before talking about the Children and Social Work Act 2017 with members, and also go and find my puppy who has refused to come up the stairs and is probably zonked in the kitchen where it's relatively cool. So have a lovely evening, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.